All right, welcome back. Thank you again for checking back in and seeing where we're at. I'm glad to say we've made it through the holiday season, almost. We've made it through Christmas. We are looking forward to the new year and still going to spend some time with our family in the next couple of days. So, trying to get a video out real quick. But this one, we're kind of starting to get in the technical aspect of what we're doing. And so today, I want to use a word a lot of people think is a bad word, but it is budget. And we're going to look at why it's important to have a budget, what happens if you don't have one, and if you don't have one that you stick to it. There's a lot of things that are beneficial from having a budget and help you get on the right track. So stick with us. We're going to get into what a budget is, why it's important, and how you can put one into place and effectively utilize it to help you find your financial freedom. I'm going to start out with a scripture because this is a journey that we're on, but it's also a journey to glorify God and finding this financial freedom that we're looking for. And I want to read from Luke 14:28 through 30. And it says, "For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he's laid a foundation and is not able to finish it, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, 'This man began to build and was not able to finish.'" So when you think about that text, it's really about being prepared and going into life knowing a game plan. And that's what we're doing when we are working a budget. And that's what we're doing as a family here is we're trying to find a budget that works for us and allows us to one, keep track of what our expenses are, but then also to make sure that we're not spending in areas where we don't need to, or we're spending the right amounts. So as we go through this video, we're going to look at what makes up a budget and how we're going to utilize it. So let me tell you this. Okay, if you do not have a budget, it is really difficult to be able to know where you're at financially. So to get to where you want to go, you have to know where you are. So this is the importance of tracking your spending. So just like driving, if you don't know the starting point, it's impossible to get to the destination. So if you don't know where you're at financially, if you don't know where all your money's going, it is impossible to know where the money is going to at the end of the month. Because a lot of people nowadays are living paycheck to paycheck, and when they get to the end of their paycheck, they either go without certain necessities or they end up using credit cards, and then they get into further debt and further trouble, and it gets harder to find that financial freedom. So we've been using what you call a zero-based budget. And what that means is you have income, you have the money that you're making, and then you have the expenses. So your income and outflow. So money that's coming in, money that's going out. Zero-based budget is income, what you're making, your W-2, your 1099 income that's coming in, minus all your expenses. So if you have a zero-based budget, that means you have a certain dollar amount that's coming in and the same amount is going out. So it doesn't mean you're necessarily spending all that money. It just means that you have a place for it to go. And that's basically what a budget is. It's a plan. It is a path or a tool that is telling your money what to do. And if you're not doing it correctly, then you're not having control of your own money. So throughout the years, we've done some sort of budgeting, and the one thing that allows us or doesn't allow you to stick to it is not being able to track your expenses well. So nowadays, any time or any bank account that you have, any credit card account, whatever it is you're using to track or to fund your expenses, you can get electronic information from that entity. So say use a debit card for all your expenses. End of the month, or even more frequently, go through weekly and download the expenses, put them into the most basic format would be go into an Excel spreadsheet and name what each of those line items are. Now there's tools out there right now that allow you to do that a lot simpler We are beginning to use every dollar from Dave Ramsey. We're going to get into this more because we are coordinating class with our church in the next few months, the Financial Peace University. So we are utilizing the Every Dollar app on our phones, and what it basically does is you tell it what your bank, who your bank is, and it links to the bank, and it pulls in all those transactions. And through, I guess, the AI technology that's built in, it will classify what it thinks the expenses are, or you can go through and tell them what they are. So that's the first part of it, is tracking where your money's going, and that's what these tools either. I mean, you could even go basic enough and go back to a ledger book and write everything down, or a check register, write down your amounts that you spend, write it in your income, balance your books. And that's basically what balance and checkbook is you know what amount of money you're spending and what's coming in, and you're making sure that everything reconciles with your bank. So when you are categorizing your expenses, it's best to have some buckets that make sense to what you're doing. So your basic ones are going to be giving, housing, automobile, personal, food, restaurant, whatever, however you want to divide it up. Just make sure that you have it granular enough that's going to give you a good idea where your money is going to, because later you're going to go and make a budget based on how much you spend. So a lot of people know roughly how much they spend each month and can go into the budget process saying, okay, I make $5,000, and you can divide that 5,000 up to all the categories and say what each of those categories should have each month. End of the month, you go and you match up all your expenses to those categories. If you spent more, well, you're over your budget. If you spent less, you had a surplus, and you have money that can be carried over to the next month, you can move that to savings or whatever. But so, like I said, okay, the zero-based budget doesn't mean that you're spending everything. Part of that should be you are funding your savings. You are either building up an emergency fund, you are putting money into retirement, your investments, whatever it is, you have a place for it to go. So at the bottom of your ledger, your budget should be zero. When you look at out there in the world today, and you're reading financial books, you're listening to people talk about finances, they will say that personal finance is 80% behavior and 20% head knowledge. So it's not a matter of you having a finance degree or an advanced degree to be able to do this. It's being able to identify what you are doing, where you're spending money, and then placing it into a bucket where you can categorize it and keep track of it. Whatever stage in life you're in, you're going to need a budget. If you just graduated high school, you're going to college, or maybe you just graduated college, you get your first degree or your first job, you're going to need a budget. You're going to be able to know how much you can spend for housing, how much you can spend for food, and you do that by splitting up your income into these buckets and then keeping track of it. If you are maybe further down the road and maybe you did get in trouble with credit cards and you're in debt, well, you need a budget to get out of debt. Maybe you're past that, or you don't have the issue with debt. Maybe you're just saving for emergency fund. Maybe you're trying to get those 3 to 6 months, maybe 12 months of savings stockpiled. Well, you need to have a budget to do that. Maybe you're saving for retirement. You need to have a budget for that. So having a budget, no matter where you're at in your life, it is important to have one in place to allow you to track your expenses and to know where your money is going to. Because otherwise, if you don't do that, your money has a life of its own. It's going to find a place to go. A lot of times that's not the best place. So if you are preemptive in naming a place for your money to go, it's easier to keep on track of that. Like I said, this is a short video before we get to the end of the year, and this is going to be kind of the kickstart into the more technical area of finances and what we're doing and how we're getting there. And I'm going to start talking in later videos of how we're doing this, what ours looks like. Like I said, a lot of people think that budget is a bad word. It's something that is difficult to do, and it's really not. Maybe you have a tool that you use. Maybe you have a process that you're doing. So if you do have something, comment below. Let me know what you're using. Maybe we can share some ideas. Maybe you have some questions on what is the best thing to do. Maybe you have questions on financial peace. Let me know, and we can get into that later on in some of our videos. Or if you have questions, starting in January, we are doing the Financial Peace University at our church. We would be glad to have you there. So this is all part of finding that financial freedom. That way we can have peace later on. So thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.